So, I have no idea how this book wound up in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box.
Normally when I do an expansion of the titles available in the randomizer, I choose ones that you can get off of Comixology, which is still a decent source despite recent history. However, if the title we're covering today was on Comixology, it certainly isn't anymore. And I don't have a physical copy, as the only ones available are print on demand. That being said, I was able to legally purchase a PDF from the creators themselves.
Added to that is the fact that I just really couldn't find much in the way of background information on this thing at all. The only thing I can tell you is that this is an ongoing webcomics series about a young woman who can summon a man-killing demon whenever she experiences a clitoral orgasm. Yes, this is called Off Girl, as in getting off girl. We've got some really interesting notes on this one. This is Off Girl Volume 1, Genesis.
Julia Davenport sits in a bar and vents about her situation to her friend Brittany, who's completely oblivious and she was just rather flirt with any guy that comes across her way. Julia eventually gets up and begins heading home, desperately trying to avoid hooking up with any guy she encounters. Julia almost hooks up with a guy she meets along the way, only to kick him out when she accidentally spills the last of her medication in the toilet. There are plenty of good reasons for a young woman to be on guard, mainly due to a massive rash of disappearances involving young women who are looking to meet up with an online date known only as Stiletto. The possible killer gets his name from the style of shoes he gifts the women before they disappear, and then he leaves behind in their wake.
He doesn't kill them, though. He merely takes them to a farm in upstate New York, strips them to their lingerie, and then makes them run on a treadmill.
Back with Julia, her therapist is concerned about the amount of medication she keeps prescribing. However, Julia promises to cut back and gets a refill before meeting with Brittany again, who explains that a recent online hookup just gifted her a pair of stiletto shoes. And that's probably not going to come back to haunt her at all in the near future. From there, Julia goes to the gym and pops her pill before hopping on the subway home, unaware that the shirtless buff guy in biker shorts convention will soon be occupying the exact same subway car. The rollicking back and forth of the train, combined with the inordinate amounts of beefcake, caused Julia to begin losing control and began grinding along the brace pole of the train.
I guess she just chose to completely ignore the Simpsons' advice about subway poles in New York City.
I'm in over my head here.
Soon, Julia enters a state of ecstasy and a strange woman exits her body. The woman passes through all of the men, killing them instantly before stopping and avoiding a research scientist named Ben Topolsky. Julia is mystified as Ben explains that he saw the demon before Julia decides to rush off as the police arrive. Later on, she decides to look up some more information on Ben to try to track him down to see what was going on. That being said, the next day, when she visits Ben's office, he's not very welcoming, and this causes a commotion that brings Ben's father, Avi, out. Julia explains to Avi what happened on the subway and the psychological toll that it's been taking on her, though she admits the whole orgasm part of her situation. This causes Avi to contact his ex-wife Betty, who thinks that Julia may in fact be possessed by a demon.
Ben, meanwhile, works on specialized drone technology that he hopes to use to inoculate farm animals. Of course, this has naturally drawn the attention of the military, who tries to weaponize this. Also, the police are aware about Julia and her expertise, I guess, for lack of a better term. However, they're more focused on trying to apprehend Stiletto, with the lead detective, whose name escapes me at the moment, being really focused on it, especially after an undercover female police officer goes missing.
Ben and Avi bring Julia over to talk with Betty, who finally confesses about the intimate connection she has with the demon. Betty seems to resume a flirtation with her ex-husband, who seems interested in resuming the relationship as Betty begins looking up certain information on the demon that she believes is possessing Julie, who is none other than the biblical Lillith.
Yes, it's Lillith, the first wife of the biblical Adam, cast out of Eden for refusing to be submissive and having sex in a position other than missionary. She's also the progenitor of incubi, succubi, and possibly vampires, and of course she is the namesake of an all-women's female rock festival in the mid to late 90s. Are you really shocked it turned out to be her?
Betty theorizes that the buff guys who came into physical contact with Julia on the train may have been targeted by Lillith, which is why Ben was avoided, as he hadn't contacted her at all. Still, this is probably going to need some more research, as Ben begins constructing a machine that can hopefully freeze Lillith in place as they draw her out. He then has Julia lay down on a vibrating table and induces an orgasm. Lillith emerges, but doesn't seem affected at all by the rapidly dropping room temperature. Not to mention, Ben's parents aren't exactly much help, as they're a little too busy getting busy. Eventually, though, the cold does get to Lillith, and she's driven into a nearby storage bottle. Overjoyed, Julia thanks everyone and prepares to catch up on some lost time. Julia and Brittany go out and paint the town red as they hook up with several men, a few at the exact same time. Unfortunately, Julia then begins to notice something. She can't orgasm anymore.
Well, sort of, but to get into exactly what I'm talking about here, we're going to have to go into the biomechanics of the female orgasm, and, if that's something you really don't want to hear, you could just skip to this point. Just mute the video and unmute it when I get to that point, alright? Okay. What pop culture usually depicts as an orgasm is a clitoral orgasm, i.e. the stimulation of the clitoris. Like this. That being said, an orgasm can also occur from an inserted object stimulating the vaginal roof or G-spot. Added to that, technically, the fluid transfer between the cervix and uterus in order for procreation also qualifies as an orgasm. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, when Julia's talking about not having an orgasm, it's probably one of the first two types. Unless she's using protection, then yeah, she probably wouldn't be experiencing the third type of orgasm. Unless she wasn't using protection, then it would be that type of orgasm. I hope you all enjoyed this.
Julia takes her problems back to the Polskis, with Betty electing to call a friend named Solomon for help, which upsets Avi, as he doesn't want Saul near either of the two women. Unfortunately, it's just a little too late for that.
No, I'm not going to make a Better Call Saul joke.
Solomon thinks that this traces back to the fact that Lillith avoided Ben, and that this is probably a connection to the biblical Adam. However, to test that, Julia will have to be reunited with Lillith, which she's all for. Men of the world be damned. That being said, while these beings are referred to by their biblical names, they might not necessarily be biblical at all. Rather, they might have another extraterrestrial origin. Meanwhile, Brittany meets up with her new online suitor, who is in fact none other than Stiletto. He drugs her and winds up taking her to the farm, where he chains her to a bed in the farmhouse because Brittany in particular reminds him of his mother.
Now for the really, really not fun part. Stiletto's real name is Ivan, and he's the heir to a shoe manufacturing empire that specializes in the making of the aforementioned style of women's shoe. Ivan's mother engaged in a sexually incestuous relationship where she molested him by having him give her an erotic massage while wearing stilettos. Yeah.
Solomon and some other guy whose name completely escapes me tell Julia that they're part of the same alien race as Adam and by extension God. Lillith, however, was part of a race called the Lacum, which was part of an arranged marriage to Adam. The marriage did not work out, but they did manage to have a few descendants, one of which is part of Julia's genetic line. That being said, God, or Gardalok, is upset about this and will soon come to exterminate all humans that contain Lacum DNA. However, there could be an option, as Lillith may be able to halt this, but only if she's rebonded to Julia. A rebonding ritual is performed in a manner that will give Julia some control over Lillith after she's made the deal with God to get him to swap our places.
Guys, look, I'm really trying here, but to be honest, I have no idea what the hell is going on in this book anymore. I'm completely at a loss. I mean, I could go back to the subplots, which basically revolve around the police detective trying to investigate Julia even further, learning about her past, and hooking up with some random woman in a bar and thus cheating on his wife. Also, the government that might not actually be the government is secretly surveilling Ben, and it looks like they're coming in to take him into custody. Also, Julia has somehow figured out that Brittany is with Stiletto up at the farm, and so now she needs to try to prepare a trap for the abductor.
Julia dons a red dress and uses the dating app to catch Stiletto's eye. It works, and Julia is soon brought up to the farm, where Brittany is bonded with Stiletto's dog. No, not in that way. The two then begin working together to escape and free the other hostages, as Julia borrows one of Brittany's shoes to use as a pleasure device to call forth Lillith. Lillith takes Stiletto down but doesn't kill him, as that task gets performed by the other victims. Meanwhile, Ben is taken hostage by the government, who it turns out are not actually affiliated with the government at all. They're a secret group funded entirely by cryptocurrency called Strandcoin. Despite Solomon's pleas, as she's needed to help with God, Julia wants to help rescue her friend and begins donning a sexy new outfit, calling herself Off-Girl in the process. Unfortunately, before she can go and rescue her friend, she's going to have to deal with the SWAT team that's gathering outside her apartment door as she does this.
And that concludes our look at Off-Girl Volume 1, Genesis. How was it? Well, on the plus side, I like the covers. I guess that's the only complimentary thing I can really say about this book, because yeah, this thing's really not very good. The artwork is alright, except for the fact that most of the characters look alike. The only characters I can really tell apart are Julia and Ben, and that's really only because of their hair color / styles. I mean, this is Julia's friend Brittany. This is Ben's mother, Betty. This is that undercover police officer that Stiletto abducted. This is Ben's father, Avi. This is the police detective investigating everything. And this is Solomon. Are you seeing the problem here? And to be honest, the story itself just isn't good. I mean, I admittedly, when trying to look up information on this, I read a short review that said this book holds way too much back, and yeah, I kind of agree with that. This thing is too dull to be stupid. This isn't, the comic equivalent of The Room or Birdemic or something like that. This is just boring. I mean, again, you took the idea of a woman who spawns a demon whenever she has an orgasm, and you made it boring. And added to that, if you wanted to make porn, like I said, I've said this before in my executive assistant reviews, if you wanted to make porn so bad, just make porn. Why are you holding back? You hold back way too much. There's no nudity at all in this comic. I mean, Lilith is nude to an extent, but, there's nothing to hide. Everything's just, she's just a completely androgynous being. I mean, calling her she might not even be the proper term. So yeah, again, it's just, why? None of this serves any point at all. It's not sexy, it's not funny, it's not intense drama, it's just terrible. I have to give Off-Girl Volume 1, Genesis, an F. And with that, let's see what we're doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, remember you can help support the channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcat productions. There you can request a tray to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. And as always, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell